We have exactly 14 days left until we hear the bell and the Raiders select the number 1 overall pick. We assume that to be Mr. Fernando Mendoza. And if that's the truth, that means that we really start at number 2 in this draft, which is the New York Jets. And that's who we're going to be talking about today, the AFC East division. I'm Emery Cuzzy. This is the Rough Draft Podcast, and we're going to be continuing our series on multiple 3-round mocks. We finished the AFC West. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Also, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. To remind you the structure, we're going to be doing 3-round mock drafts. We'll be using the 1st and 10 mock draft simulator with no trades allowed. We'll analyze each pick based on how the board fell, and our goal is to look at different scenarios so that we can see how maybe these teams do it. Every year, these analysts, myself, we get it wrong when we do our mock drafts. So why not look at it in a bunch of different ways and check out everybody's board, right? So we'll be picking different players for each team for each draft. And we're going to be trying to find fits that make sense. It isn't a perfect science though, especially in the AFC East, because they have so many picks in this division. We're doing 3 rounds. There's 100 total picks. They hold 16 of them, with Miami holding 7 by themselves. That gives this division a lot of opportunity to improve. So let's dive in and figure out the best strategy. I'm going to pull up the screen now and we'll get going. So as you can see here, this is the 1st and 10 mock draft simulator. I shouted it out a couple times. This is one of the best simulators out there, if not the best. It makes things so easy. You can check it out. You pick whatever team you want to follow, of course. You can do all teams. You do how many rounds you want to do. And then also you do where you start. It's a really great simulator. You can add friends and you can draft together from different places. They also have the draft, big board, prospect analysis, combine results, all the stuff. They have free agency stuff, and they have games if you get a little bit bored. There's some great things on here. So go check out my friends from the 1st and 10 podcast. They do a great job with everything. They also have their podcast on YouTube, so go check them out. But let's get going. The NFC East. Here we go. Okay. As you can see, first pick overall is going to be Mr. Fernando Mendoza. That is not going to change. The New York Jets being on the clock, I think, we're going to talk about a couple players. One of the big ones, of course, is going to be Arbel Reese. David Bailey's on that radar. I don't really know that there's going to be a lot more options here. I think that between these two guys, they're going to be about minus like 1,200 to be the first pick by the Jets. So we're going to stay in with one of those two guys. Arbel Reese is my preferred pick, and if we're going to go with preferred and what kind of actually is projected to happen, let's go Arbel Reese to start this off. I think the Jets have a lot of stuff, though. Let's go ahead and talk about the Jets real quick. There's a lot of picks, so we will talk about them a few times. I'm just going over it, though. They're going to add a quarterback either this year or next year if they do go with Ty Simpson, which we will have to do one draft where we go Ty Simpson. But I believe next year makes a lot more sense. They have some wide receiver depth that they could go to because right now Aaron Smith and Isaiah Williams are their wide receiver 3 behind Adonai Mitchell and Garrett Wilson. So I think they add there. I think the interior offensive line is something that they could go ahead and get because Joe Tippmann has been really good, but Josh Myers, one of the worst centers in football. Dylan Parham's kind of just a bridge guy, in my opinion, to come in and just kind of play one of these spots. But I think you get another guy in there that would be really good for them. So we're going to definitely target that. Defensive line, I think you could add one more. Mozzie's on this team, but I don't love Mozzie. David Onyemata's fine. Harrison Phillips and Devondre are good, but I think adding one more there. I think adding an edge, but of course we're going to be adding Arbel Reese. So if you're picking him this high, you're probably going to play him at edge. But you could even talk about if he does play linebacker for you, maybe we get another edge later on. Maybe you get another linebacker if you want to play him at edge. You know what I mean? Do both sides of it. And then in the back end, I think Brandon Stevens could be replaced. I think Andre Sisco's been just okay. And I'm a big fan of Malachi Moore, but he didn't show up. And I also don't think they're going to be starting him. So maybe getting a safety nickel corner. Both of those are options in my opinion. But let's go Arbel Reese to start it off. And then the next pick is going to be the team that I said had so many picks. You can see they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the top 100. So we're going to draft them a lot today. That's the Miami Dolphins. And there's a reason they have that many picks is because they're the worst roster in football by far, in my opinion. If you look at it, they could upgrade just about every position on this team except for, you could upgrade backup running back to say the least. Their receiving core, Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, and Tutu Atwell. That's got to be better. Tight end, Greg Dulcich. He was a 3rd stringer for the Broncos. That's not good. Jonas Ivanea was the worst guard rated last year. Jamari Salyer, I don't know, dude. They just have some issues on their line. And then on defense, Kenneth Grant came in. He's a rookie, but he was awful last year. Jordan Phillips, actually, Siler is good. And then Chop Robinson's going to be a strong player, but you have to do the other side still. Josh Uche, just fine. David Ajobo, just fine. So adding to that defensive end edge group is going to be important. Adding a linebacker, because I don't think Tyrell Dotson's going to be the guy. Willie Gay, I'm glad they signed him, I guess, but really this team needed to sign a lot more. And then they have the worst secondary in football, in my opinion. There's just so many names you just don't even know who's going to start or what they're going to do. None of them are going to be top 75% players in the league, in my opinion. So adding to every single spot in their secondary is important. And we're going to try to do that for them. We're going to start with defense because I think that's normally the spot that falls to them. It's Jermon McCoy here. Or you could go with Spencer Fano and put him at guard and then kick him out because Austin Jackson's not going to come back and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of conversation on this team. But basically, it's best player available. Jermon McCoy is our best player available. He would be, except for Jordan Tyson's still on the board. Jermon McCoy would be number 4 for us on our board. So definitely a guy that we have higher than consensus. So we'll be going there to start it off. I mean, you got to remember, this is so first one cornerback. Maybe next time we go something else, edge or something. But they just have to fall. The Jets here, we went Arvell Reese. So go a lot of positions. Interior offensive line isn't really here because Vega goes at 14. If he falls here, I think it's a good pick. I think Jordan Tyson would have been my favorite pick of the group here. But at the same time, I think, going wide receiver Omar Cooper makes a lot of sense. I think he's just risen so much. I've seen him go here a few times. I think edge is an option. Who's there? Akeem Mesidor, but that's kind of a win now. And then also you put Arvell Reese, so you're probably going to play him at edge. Let's see, safety. I mean, Dylan Thieneman here would make a lot of sense in my opinion. I think that you could go there and just be happy with the safety, really strong safety. Kenyon Sadiq, no, they just went there. They don't need offensive tackle, which is really good for them. So let's go with Omar Cooper. I think he's the best wide receiver based on consensus on the board. Actually, I really like Casey Concepcion myself, but I like both of them a lot. And then the Bills. The Bills only have 2 top 100 picks. They're the lowest under this group by far. And if we look at them at their depth chart, fine. Of course, Josh Allen's great. James Cook's great. DJ Moore. I think they could still add another receiver because I think, but Keon Coleman's still there. We'll see if he ever figures it out. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes. What a great tight end group. And then offensive line's been pretty good. I think you could add a guard maybe later on. I don't think right now, obviously, but I think a guard would make a lot of sense to upgrade maybe Alec Anderson or even Osiris Torrance. Both they're just okay. Defense. Oh yeah, they did move to a 3-4 defense. I forgot to mention that. I do think that you could add some depth at the defensive line spots. Ed Oliver, Deion Walker, and TJ Sanders, 2 really young players, and then one of the guys that's going to get paid. And if they want to bring Ed Oliver back, I think they have to pay him. So it's going to be one of those conversations like maybe we could just get younger and pick somebody. I think that could be an option for sure, especially if Caleb Banks is on the board. Greg Rousseau and Bradley Chubb is a great edge duo, but I think obviously, there's no backups on this team right now. Add those inside linebacker, Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard. I think you could get a linebacker here and upgrade Dorian Williams. Even Terrell Bernard, he's been okay, but I think you could upgrade him too. And then in the secondary, I think at cornerback positions, I think you could go ahead and grab somebody. Obviously, Maxwell Hairston would play over Dorian Strong, but I think you could add another cornerback. I don't think you have to. This isn't a terrible team. I think that there's some good pieces. I just think, adding some depth at spots and getting some players that can come help contribute would be good. If you want, you could go Caden McDonald. I don't think, actually. Oh, Caleb Banks went to pick before to the Chicago Bears. So Caleb Banks off the board. I think he's the better 3 tech than Caden McDonald. But you could pick Caden McDonald here. I think he's a good, solid player. What were we thinking? Let's see. We don't need offensive line. I just went through all that spiel, and now I forget what I just did. You could go offensive line. I think wide receiver too, you could do that. But I think what makes the most sense is probably going Caden McDonald here and getting yourself some depth at the interior offensive line. I also think edge is a really big spot for them. Like I said, they just need depth at edge. TJ Parker's still on the board. He would make sense right next to Bradley Chubb. He's my comp to TJ Parker. Wow, the comp for them is Jared Verse. Okay, cool. I get it. The long arm, the strength, all that stuff that he kind of comes with. He's not necessarily going to be a great pass rusher, but he's going to make quarterbacks very uncomfortable, kind of like how Jared Verse does. Yeah, let's go TJ Parker. He makes some sense. Now going back to the Miami Dolphins, a lot of stuff on the board. Jermon McCoy, so they don't need cornerback now. Then you could go wide receiver. I don't think there's any wide receivers worth going here on the board because I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Where did he go? Oh, he went to pick before. Casey Concepcion, who's what I was talking about. He went to pick before. Best player available is what I just keep doing for them. Interior offensive line, they could go Emmanuel Pregnon. I think they could do that the next pick. He could hopefully still be there. Edge is an option. I think Zion Young would be a great pick for them, helping them just be a better defense in general. They already went corner, like I said. Yeah, let's go Blake Miller and get your replacement for Austin Jackson. Yeah, let's go ahead and go Zion Young. Let's do Zion Young. He makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, for what they're trying to do. New England, we haven't talked about yet. Let's go check out their depth chart. Drake May, of course, great. Ramondre and Travion, a great duo, but the receiving core is lacking at the moment. Efton Chisholm needs a complete shout out because he's better than the other 2 up here. He could play a little bit. That's a GTD shout out. Hunter Henry, and they don't have Austin Hooper anymore, so maybe you go tight end later on. I think that right tackle is a thing that they need to address. I think that if there is a right tackle on the board, they could get the long-term replacement. I know that Maxi Onshore was being manhandled by Mike Vrabel at his pro day, which was kind of funny. But that's the kind of stuff that I think Vrabel likes. I think he likes having guys that can come in and play their offensive line, run the ball down people's throats. I don't think their secondary needs any help because Kevin Byard, Craig Woodson played great last year, Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez. I mean, the injury is the biggest concern, and then Marcus Jones is good too. So edge is, of course, a conversation because they don't have a premier edge, in my opinion. They could go get a real pass rusher if like Cassius Howe's on the board. Defensive line, they could always make it a little bit better, but at the same time, they have Corey Durden in there, and he's not even starting, and he was really good last year. So I think edge is where I would like to go first, or right tackle if Blake Miller's still on the board. So right there, okay. Cassius Howe and Blake Miller, those are the two guys I was looking at. So let's go Blake Miller in this one. I don't think he'll be there every time, so let's get a good look that way because I think that adding a right tackle of the future makes a lot of sense. And then let's go to the New York Jets. New York Jets, Emmanuel Pregnant's still on the board. Could be an option. They did go Arvil Reese and Omar Cooper Jr. I think that they could do a lot of things. Corner is also something that they could do. Let's go see what corners are on the board. Fulton Hood's there. He's not there. Chris Johnson will be going early. I'm not as high on Chris Johnson, but if this is predictive, I think he will be going early, and you could take him here. Safety-wise, I believe all the safeties have gone. Colton Hood went one pick before, of course. That's how it goes, right, guys? That's why you move up. Linebacker, they'd win a linebacker / edge. Chris Johnson might be the obvious pick here. Ty Simpson's still on the board at 32. Let's go Chris Johnson and give him a guy that I'm not as high on, but I think the NFL is really high on. And if this is predictive, I think they would do that. Right here, Miami has gone Zion Young and Jermon McCoy, made their defense better. Maybe there's a receiver here. I don't know that there is, though. I think it's a little early still. But Chris Bell's an option. I think they have another pick pretty soon. Where's Miami's next pick? Let's look. Miami's next pick is at 75. Okay, so that's going to be a drop-off at the receiver spot. So maybe Antonio Williams or something like that later on, though. I think they probably want to get a wide receiver, though, that can play as a number one. And I think that, you have the conversation between these three guys. Jeremy Bernard, really solid floor player. Chris Braswell, kind of the question marks of like a Tennessee receiver. Can they actually fit in the NFL? But he is such a good athlete. And then Chris Bell, who tore his ACL, but if he didn't tear his ACL, he's going to be a top 30 player, in my opinion. So let's go with Chris Bell. I think Chris Bell is going to be the guy that people still want to bet on the most because he could end up being A.J. Brown, which I don't know that I see that the whole thing, but it's possible, I guess. Okay, next up, Kevin with Chris Johnson, Omar Cooper, and Arvil Reese. There's a lot of positions they could go. Interior offensive line, I don't want to do that yet because there's not going to be one on the board that makes sense. He went wide receiver. They could still, go like a nickel to upgrade that spot because Jarvis Brownlee's been fine. Corner was the one I think we really needed to upgrade. Maybe another linebacker if you're going to play that edge spot, like I said. Could be a best player available position here. So who is the best player? Well, let's look at our board. Christian Miller's still on the board. I think that is a steal. And it's not that they have to get interior defensive line, but at the same time, making it even better. I don't think that anybody, I don't even know if David Amiata is going to help. So yeah, let's go Christian Miller. I think he makes a lot of sense in just best player available. Go get a guy that is going to change the run game style. So big fan of his. That's a lot of picks. All right. New England. New England needs a receiver. And Jeremy Bernard staring me in the face. Not against that. Not even a little bit. Let's see. Landry. We went offensive tackle. Edge is also a big need here. Who's on the edge spot? So Jeremy. The next best edge is Derek Moore, who I like a lot, and Joshua Josephs, who I like a lot and have a lot higher than possibly, the consensus. But at the same time, I don't know that they're going to go until third round. So Jeremy Bernard is probably the best pick. He's got a high floor, gives you something next to Romeo Dobbs and Matt Collins, who's mostly out there to block. Let's go Jeremy Bernard. He makes a lot of sense in my opinion. I'm happy he was there. Okay, and now we're going to get into a lot of back-to-back Miami picks. Max Clare being here is a lot of fun. It's not a pick that most people are thinking about, but like I said, they have Greg Dulcich, and that's about it. So that could be an option. I think interior offensive line is definitely important here. I don't know who's on the board for interior offensive line. Let's see. Keelan Rutledge is still there. What's my next pick? 87 and then 90. I don't think I'm getting Max Clare at 87, so that might be where I go. And hoping Keelan Rutledge is there at 87. Some safeties like Bud Clark. We'll talk about some safeties that are going to be there in a little bit. But yeah, let's Derek Moore and Joshua Josephs, but I did go edge. But adding even more because they are pretty short. Let's go with Max Clare here. Okay, now at 87, our fingers were crossed and he's gone. That's okay though. Let's go check out the interior of the Lions stuff. It's a little bit deeper than it's given credit for. Like Jalen Farmer is going to go in the third round, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to be a 153 guy. I'm really high on Matt Goldman. I think he's a great center, but I don't know that. I think the guard spot is more important, in my opinion. I really like Logan Jones. So let's go with Jalen Farmer, a guy that most people probably wouldn't expect here. I might take him at 90 though. Let's go check some other positions and see if there's a best player available that we should just go ahead and take, and then take him at 90. Let's see. Kyle Lewis is here. Play next to Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks is the only linebacker I believe that's worth it. Yeah. So I think that Kyle Lewis at Sam would be a lot of good, and you could put Willie Gay at Mike or at Will. This is a tough one. Having too many picks makes it really hard because you're trying to, and me personally, I'm not trying to pick the same position twice. But let's go with Kyle Lewis. I think he makes sense. I think he had a great Senior Bowl getting up to this point. So, and then we'll go Jalen Farmer at 90, like I had talked about. I just think he's the best guard on the board, in my opinion. Yeah, there's no one else. So let's go Jalen Farmer. Another pick for us. It's going to be the Buffalo Bills, their second pick of the board. They went TJ Parker. I think wide receiver could be in play. I think safety's in play, like it's showing. I think Ted Hurst is an option for sure to be that Joshua Palmer, because they don't really have a big receiver except for Keon Coleman, but he isn't, like I said, he hasn't played well. So we're going to figure that out part. Maybe they believe in him, We went with TJ Parker. You could D-line. I'm not probably going to do that. Let's see. Just adding talent. You know what I mean? Add talent. I really like Devin Moore too. I think that, they could add a cornerback. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibilities. If I'm looking at safety here, because I think safety is an option. Jalen Kilgore is going to play your nickel. They did just sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, D. Alford. Dennis Smith could be your deep guy, but I don't think they like doing that very much. They like kind of having a, split. So let's see. David Igbinosun would be fun. He's a little grabby. I like Devin Moore a little bit more than him. Oof. No, we already went edge. So we're going to go best player available on defense, basically. So it's going to look like. So D-line, edge, linebacker, cornerback, safety. I just think Devin Moore makes too much sense. Am I crazy for that? Let's go with Devin Moore. Let's grab another cornerback for them. I know that Benford's there, but I think that upgrading and trying to find depth at that position is super important. He is a true outside corner too. And then another Miami pick, because they've got like within 8 picks, they've got 3. So they should probably, what did they go so far? A lot of stuff. Wow. Add a safety maybe. Which safeties are on the board? Is Akee Wheatley still here? That'd be fun. No, it's Jalen Kilgore playing that nickel spot. Actually, they really like having nickels, so I'm not against that. Kyle Lewis, Max Clare. They went both of the CC. A lot of defense. 3 and 3. Okay. Yeah, let's go Jalen Kilgore and give him a nickel, a big nickel for that matter, and play him there. He's more of a safety than he is a cornerback of the two. And then New England, we've picked Jeremy Bernard and Blake Miller. So one more pick for them. I don't think corner is the biggest need, need like it's showing, but I guess you like Carlton Davis might be gone. You had the injury to Christian Gonzalez, so maybe I think linebacker you could add, but they were both pretty good last year. What did we do again? Jeremy Bernard. Oh yeah, not really a defense. So I could see corner, like it's saying, because of the injuries and stuff, but I don't know that I love it. I just really wanted to pick a right tackle, so I got that, but I just think. Yeah, we can go corner. What's the best corner on the board? I think it has to be Davison Igbinosun at this point, right? Yeah, it's David Davison. So let's go with Davison Igbinosun. He's a little grabby, but hopefully he can learn a little bit in the NFL. If you look, the Buffalo Bills went TJ Parker and Devin Moore to add to their defense because that is where their woes have been. Miami had 7 picks. They went Jamal McCoy, Zion, Young, Chris Bell, Max Clare, Kyle Lewis, Jalen Farmer, and Jalen Kilgore. My goodness. Those are a lot of good names in there, though. So we're higher on Jamal McCoy and Zion Young from where they got picked. I really like this Max Clare pick. I think it's way too late for him. I actually like the Kyle Lewis pick. I think it's way too late for him. And then we went searching for some value. Jalen Farmer should not be as low as he is. So I like that. I like that a lot for them. The New England Patriots, they go 3. Blake Miller to replace Morgan Moses after next year or even this year. Jeremy Bernard, safe wide receiver to help Drake May out, and then Davison Igbinosun to give some depth at that position where they had some injuries. And then the Jets, Arvo Reese is the number 2 overall pick in my opinion. I think he deserves to be there. Omar Cooper flying up boards as he should be because he's such a good football player. Chris Johnson, I'm a little bit lower on him, but I know there are some analysts that really, really like him because he's a very smart, intelligent player. Just worry about the press man stuff, but at the same time, like you're getting a guy that can cover very well. And then Christian Miller was a steal in my personal opinion. He's like 9th on our big board, so absolute steal. So I think it makes a lot of sense. All those teams, in my opinion, did good. So let's go ahead and do another one. And we'll go run through it with different players. We're going to try. It's a little hard with this pick because basically we're going to go Arvo Reese twice and David Bailey once on these three. So let's go David Bailey on this one because then we know that David Bailey's not going to play linebacker. We can still pick a linebacker for them here in a minute. So David Bailey goes to the New York Jets. And then right here, so we went, what did we go last time for them? I think we went Jamal McCoy. Mansard Lane being on the board and Jamal McCoy not being on the board is an interesting thing on this mock draft simulator, but I think it makes a lot of sense personally. I think Dylan Thieneman could make some sense here. One that's kind of sneaky is Kenan Sadiq. You know, you need pass catchers and athletes, like adding it in a different way than going with a receiver makes sense. I think, though, I will be going receiver. Mekhi Lemon is getting way more buzz as going earlier than Jordan Tyson, even knowing I have Jordan Tyson as our number one receiver. Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate are going earlier than him, so we're going to stick with that trend and go Mekhi Lemon here. And then the Jets are back up again. They went David Bailey. Now they need a lot of things, and I'm not going to be picking the quarterback on this one unless it's in the beginning of the second round. I think they move back into the first if they do try to go quarterback with Ty Simpson. So we won't do it at 16. So our other options are basically everything. I think Spencer Fano is a super, we need to have a conversation about that because Ola Vega is going to be gone. With Vega gone, the next best interior offensive lineman is Spencer Fano, if not better than Vega. I think most people are going to say that Vega's better, but Spencer Fano has 5 position flexibility. The whole interior offensive line of the Jets needs to be fixed. A lot of people see Spencer Fano as a interior offensive lineman. He snapped at the combine, so I think he makes a lot of sense here. I think that Dylan Thieneman makes some sense here, which we will be going Dylan Thieneman in one of these drafts here. But I'd rather get more help on the offensive line, especially if we're setting up to go with a quarterback. So let's go with interior offensive lineman Spencer Fano. Next up, we've got the Bills, and Omar Cooper still being on the board makes me super intrigued. Caleb Banks on the board too. Okay, so that means that we had to have seen Cade McDonald go. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So Caleb Banks and Omar Cooper being on the board, it's going to be one of those two guys. Man, that just splits my heart. Caleb Banks, 4 really good football games. Senior Bowl was really good. Breaks his foot again before the combine, then runs a 5.04 after he broke his foot. So the athlete is in there. The consistency and all the things, I had to drop him down our board. But, you know, if you're shooting for the stars, like Caleb Banks is the shot you need to take. Omar Cooper is such a safe player, in my opinion. Just does all the right things. I think the need technically is going to be on the defensive line more, just for depth pieces, and he can play basically 4-eye to 4-eye. Omar Cooper, they already have Khalil Shakur, DJ Moore, and Keon Coleman, and Josh Palmer. They have guys, and then they also have a trio of tight ends. If you're going to be playing that many tight ends all the time, yeah, I think the pick is going to be Caleb Banks, but it kind of tears me apart. My goodness. Oh, it's okay. I went Mekhi Lemon, so I would have been sad if my Omar Cooper was still on the board after going Mekhi Lemon. And Casey Concepcion both went right before that. Let's give them a pass rusher here. I think, going to the opposite side of the ball, TJ Parker makes sense. Zion Young makes sense. Kesh Towell makes sense. Whichever pass rusher you have the highest on. I actually like Gabe Jacas also. So all those guys, I think you go with TJ Parker. They like that style because they did have Bradley Chubb last year. Similar player, in my opinion. It's like Bradley Chubb light, basically. I wonder who their comp is. Oh, yeah, Jared Verse. We talked about that. Cool. So let's go with TJ Parker and go on to the New England Patriots. New England, Blake Miller's still on the board. I think I went Blake Miller last time, so I won't do that again. CJ Allen, I'm not as high on, but he is sitting here a little bit early, in my opinion, for him. But, there's some options there. I didn't think they played bad. Christian Ellis played for the Falcons last year, and Robert Spillane was an ex-Raider, actually. I really like Robert Spillane. I wish they would have kept him, but yeah, I don't know that they need a linebacker here. I think an edge or a interior defensive lineman are both options. We were going to go between Cassius Howe and Blake Miller last time, so why don't we just go with Cassius Howe this time around? Okay, quarterback's on the board. Told y'all it's going to drop to him. So Ty Simpson will get Spencer Fano to play interior offensive line with them. We're going to go receiver on the next round. That's the plan, at least. And let's do a Ty Simpson build on this one. I think it's got to happen at least once. All right. TJ Parker edge, Mekhi Lemon, Zion Young still being on the board is crazy to me. But okay, let's see then. They could go cornerback here. Chris Johnson, Colton Hood is my way preferred, and Brandon Cisse I like a lot. They could fall in love with Brandon Cisse, in my opinion. But all 3 of those guys are options. I think one of them, I also love Keith Abney. He's just such a absolute dog. So all those guys are possible. Maxie Heinsdorf still being on the board is crazy. Wow, there's a lot of options. We're going to go corner. Let's go with Colton Hood. He's my favorite of the group. And then Ty Simpson. I don't think there's a receiver that makes sense, right? Yeah, you could. I mean, I'm not going to reach here. I can't remember what our next picks are. I think we have this is our last pick on the top. So maybe we trade back here normally. Maybe we do go receiver and make sure we get one of those guys because that would make a lot of sense. I think corner also makes sense here. Just talked about Brendan Cisse and Chris Johnson, but I think a wide receiver so you don't have to start Isaiah Williams or Aaron Smith. Like, I'd rather go get receiver here. And Jeremy Bernard, I thought Chris Bell would be here. He's not. Jeremy Bernard is the safest guy in this group by far. I don't think they want a Zachariah Branch. They already went with Malachi Corley. Just all the gadgety BS, and now Malachi Corley's not even on the team because they didn't know how to use him. So let's go Jeremy Bernard. Real safe floor type of player. Okay, New England back on the clock. They went catch towel the first time. There's no offensive tackle here, so that's why I like going offensive tackle first and then going with someone else here. This is wide receivers only. Max Janshore just randomly on the board because I said that, of course. No, I'm just kidding. But that would be crazy. D'Angelo Pons is really interesting. They could go there and get like a guy that can play inside outside and just kind of be the extra piece with Marcus Jones, Christian Gonzalez, and Carlton Davis because you've had injuries, like I've said. And then I don't think Carlton Davis has a very long contract after this year. So both are options. Caleb Tiernan's interesting. He plays left tackle for Northwestern right now. I think those short arms just trip me out, dude. Like, I don't understand what's happening there with his build. D'Angelo Pons. They need a center? They don't, right? No. This is New England, not Buffalo. They have Jared Wilson moving from guard to center. Oh, man. Tough spot. Could go receiver. Antonio Williams is a guy I really like. Skylar Bell's here. Yeah, let's go wide receiver. Let's go check out the receiver group because that just feels right. Yeah, let's go Antonio Williams. Get him out of the slot. He'll be good next to Romeo Dobbs. Those are the positions that I just keep looking at for these teams. Like, I just can't get over those positions for the most part. Colton Hood, TJ Parker, and Mekhi Lemon. Miami just needs guys. I think depth, of course. They have Aaron Brewer at center. I think he's probably their best interior offensive lineman right now. Treydon Stukes is an interesting name to play that nickel spot. Skylar Bell, but I already went wide receiver. So let's see. Is Keelan Rutledge is on the board here? Let's just let's hope he falls to 87 again. Let's just hope for that. Joshua Josephs, we did go edge already, so could go safety. Let's go either Treydon Stukes or who else is at safety here? Oh, Genesis Smith, if you really want a one high type of safety that can play just coverage. I like him a lot. I was wrong on Kalen Bullock, so I'm higher on Genesis Smith personally because I just think the coverage ability is so good, even if he can't tackle that well. And I am a big believer in tacklers, so don't shoot me for that one. Let's go Treydon because I just talked myself out of Genesis Smith. And the same team, actually. Both played for Arizona. Both are, were really good for Arizona. And he's gone again. Wow. Brian Parker's not, though. I think Brian Parker could play right guard for you right now. That's a pretty solid guy still being on the board. Interesting. Yeah, let's go there. That makes a lot of sense. And then you pick again, which now we have a plethora of players. 5. Treydon Stukes, Brian Parker, Colton Hood. Let's just go best player available. Defense. Offense. What offensive players do we want? Jonah Coleman's interesting for these teams, but not for Miami necessarily. They've got 3 deep. Backup quarterback. They do need a tight end. I'm not against going tight end again. They have done that. Justin Jolie, Michael Trigg. I'm higher on Justin Jolie. I'm higher on Sam Roush. I like him a lot to block and run routes. Sam Roush. The tight end position is going to be all over the place on boards. I don't care what anybody thinks. No one has figured out right now. So let's go with Sam Roush. Why not, right? Okay, so far, the Buffalo Bills have picked Caleb Banks. I don't know if there's a receiver here that makes sense. I mean, I like Ted Hurst, especially in the end of the 3rd round. Like, you're getting a guy that I think makes a lot of sense there. You could go, but they went Caleb Banks. They could go edge. They could go receiver. Let's go look at the edges. Romello Height. I'm just not that high on Romello Height, unfortunately. But actually, at this point, he's way past ADP. I mean, he was 92 for us, so 91. He's not that far off. We could go safety here or corner. What corners are on the board? Not really anybody I love. Wow, this board fell funny. All right. Well, then what we're going to do is we're going to take the guy that I said originally. We're going to take Ted Hurst. I just like him a lot. Now, I know that Keon Coleman's there, and I know that they're kind of similar body types and styles, but I think Ted Hurst has some juice. I was not that high on Keon Coleman. It might have been the Florida State tax. I am a Florida State fan, so maybe I just was harder on him. But then, of course, he disappears in games, and you've seen that if you watch them play. So let's go Ted Hurst. Another pick for the Miami Dolphins. to finish it out, I believe. So went Sam Roush, Brian Parker. Okay, BPA, right? They could go receiver again, in my opinion. I don't think that would be out of the realm of possibilities. Why is Romello Heights still there? Jeez. Yeah, he'll be gone before that. Aaron Nussmeier's backup quarterback. Let's see. Willie, Deion Burks is really solid. I know that we picked McKyleman, though. We went 2 cornerbacks. Don't go secondary again, I guess. Edge, offensive tackle. Dude, there's no D lineman here, I don't think, that I like. There might be. Dante Corleone is not going to go that high. I don't like him at 102 at all. I like Skylar Howard more. I like Tim Keenan more. I like Chris McClellan more. I like Caleb Proctor more. I don't know. That's weird to me that he's that high. So no D lineman, unfortunately. Did they go interior offensive line? They did. Oof, safety. You could go Genesis Smith and put him with his old teammate Traydon Stukes. You have so many positions you have to fill in the back end. Jacoby Lane, I don't love. Is there another wide receiver that makes sense? Did we go tight end with them already? We didn't. So we could go tight end. I'd have to go look around for a good tight end. Oh, no, we did. We went Sam Rush. Okay, never mind. Deion Burks is my favorite in this group right here. He's actually going to be top 100 for us, so I like him a lot. Adding another receiver. I think it makes sense, though. They have literally wide receiver 3s on their team. So let's go Deion Burks. And I believe then we will finish it up with the New England Patriots. Last pick of the day, or of this draft. They went Antonio Williams and Cassius Howe. We could go a 3rd round corner, in my opinion. It would make some sense. Looking at Julian Hill, Dalen Everett makes a lot of sense for what they do. He's a longer athlete. So is Julian Neal. But I'm not against either of those guys. That's our corner stuff that we're looking at. Who else does New England need? They did not go tackle. There's no tackle here. They do need a tight end if they wanted a more athletic tight end next to Hunter Henry. Not against Oscar Delp. I think he would fit perfectly in what New England likes to do. I mean, he gets after it in the run game. He's a physical freak. He can run fast as hell. That sounds fun. Stylistically, it makes a lot of sense. So let's go Oscar Delp. I think the style just kind of sells it for me. And finish it up. Okay, so the Buffalo Bills go Caleb Banks in the 1st round, and then they go Ted Hurst in the 3rd. I think that it's an interesting way of doing it, but I actually like their first draft a little bit more. Then you had Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins went Mekhi Lemon first, and then TJ Parker, Colton Hood, Traydon Stukes, Brian Parker the 2nd, Sam Roush, and Deion Burks. They were just trying to fill out a roster with good football players, and I think that was what we were doing. I don't think it makes, truly, they have so many avenues they could go, so Miami is such an interesting team with all 7 of those picks. Then we went David Bailey instead of Arvell Reese this time around with the New York Jets, Spencer Fano and Ty Simpson and Jeremy Bernard. Basically, these next 3 picks is like, hey, Geno Smith, like you're just a rental. Ty Simpson, you're the guy for next year. Let's get you some guys to help you on offense. And that was what we did here. And then the New England Patriots finish it out. Cassius Howe to get an edge rusher added to that room and give some depth and actually freakish, pass rushing ability. Antonio Williams, because, depth on that offensive, that needs an offensive tackle for sure. That's the biggest position in my opinion. And then Oscar Delp at tight end. So really solid. Let's go one more time. We'll run through this one a little bit quicker. We're going to go either Arvell Reese or David Bailey, flip a coin. Maybe we go Ruben Bain just to throw everything off. Why not? Because they do still run that 4-3. They're going to switch to a little bit of 3-4 and be a little bit multiple. But let's go ahead and go Ruben Bain. Let's change it up. Different edge rusher this time around. All right, now, Carnell Tate falling here is crazy to me. We went receiver and we've gone cornerback. So let's go with a different position. We go offensive line. Let's go interior offensive line to get one of those offensive guards fixed. And we're going to go with Vega here. Oh, Spencer Fano goes right before that. We did not go wide receiver yet, I don't believe. Maybe I'm crazy. Did we go with Mark Cooper earlier? Maybe we did. But Jordan Tyson was not the pick. So we said we're going to go Dylan Thieneman with one of them, though. So let's go Dylan Thieneman and give him a safety. I think it makes sense that they get, some guys in the back end that are just, ball hawks. And Dylan Thieneman does so many good things. He's so versatile. Buffalo, they're going to a 3-4. We gave them an edge. We've gave them an interior defender. We could go offense and go with a true wide receiver, high-end wide receiver. Casey Concepcion's yelling at me. Why don't we do that? Let's change it up and go with a wide receiver this time around. Remember, this is a scenario game, right? We're trying to see what everything that could happen in these drafts and all the craziness that could come from them. Now, they went Vega. The Miami Dolphins went Vega, their first pick. So now you go wide receiver, you go edge, you go cornerback. I think corner would be Colton Hood here. I think edge is TJ Parker. So I think we've done that, but at the same time, we could go Zion Young and switch it up because they do run a 4 down right now. Well, let's go Zion Young. I love Zion Young. Zion Young is top 16 on our board. I think he's way too low on most consensus boards, but I'm also not building them with all of the fun coding that you have to do to get all those boards together. Now, New England, yeah, we've gone edge, we've gone tackle, so I don't want to do those positions, which makes it hard. Let's go linebacker. Let's go CJ Allen. Now, CJ Allen is our 4th overall linebacker. He's not on that high, but I think a lot of people see him as a really, really good, like, run defending, find the ball, nose to the ground kind of player. Now, we went Thieneman. We've gone twice on defense. Is there a receiver here that makes sense? I don't think so, because I kind of took him myself. Okay. So no receiver. Could go corner. Corner would be interesting. I think linebacker was the kind of the pick. So if CJ Allen was still here, that would have been a good spot. Interior offensive line, no. Just go get a player, right? That sounds like what we're going to do. Caleb Banks might have the highest ceiling of any of the players in this draft. So get some traits out of that guy. I know that they have, like I've said in the past on this video, that they have some D linemen, but I mean, you don't have a Caleb Banks. If you get the ceiling of Caleb Banks, you are going to be really, really happy. So let's go with Caleb Banks. Let's change it up. Change it up. Going off the rails. Oh, well, why are these guys here? So that's crazy. Because Brandon Cisse went and not Colton Hood or Chris Johnson. Okay. I like Brandon Cisse more than Chris Johnson. Like I've said, I like Keith Abney a lot, but we're going to go Colton Hood. And we're going to pick the next pick, apparently. Who have we gone? Caleb Banks. We've gone 3 defensive players for the New York Jets. Interior offensive line is not here, but this is our last pick in the first round. Wide receiver is an option. We have to get a wide receiver, in my personal opinion. We did this last time because we had to reach on one. But Chris Bell's here this time. Instead of Jeremy Bernard, go Chris Bell opposite of Garrett Wilson. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, New England. I'm only on wide receivers. New England needs a wide receiver, funny enough, so maybe I should have stayed there. They've gone linebacker at this point. Could go edge. I don't think LT Overton should be above Derek Moore. That's for sure. That's a crazy thing. I'm actually putting LT Overton at defensive tackle, though. So kind of shifting that. I think the edge spot for me, because they do run a 3-4, I think Joshua Josephs fits a lot in there. I do a lot of Cassius Howe to them, and I think Joshua Josephs is actually the better player long term. So Joshua Josephs, if it was our board, would definitely already be gone. Let's go ahead and go Joshua Josephs here. Now, Miami, again, they went Colton Hood. And Vega, they've already done the interior offensive line, which is good. So we don't have to make that pick here. We don't have to even think about it. Zakee Wheatley makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. I think he'd be great. Chandler Rivers is one of my favorite nickel corners, if there is, he's so good. And I also think Josiah Trotter would be so cool. He has not fallen to us yet. This is our first time for him to fall to us. They a Mike linebacker, and I think Josiah Trotter is just that. He's a head hunting, just destroys offensive linemen, makes them not want to play. I love him so much. So we're going Josiah Trotter because we're on the last one. We're on the last draft, and why not? Now, there's still going to be guys here. Dominique Orange, let's see, linebacker, cornerback, edge. Let's go wide receiver if there's a wide receiver we're talking about. There's not. We can get a wide receiver in a minute. That's fine. We have so many picks. So we'll go wide receiver in a minute. We'll go with a different position. We already went corner. We went linebacker. A nickel corner would be okay. Is there safety we're talking about? Is a real question. I don't nickel. Let's go Genesis Smith. No, did I do that last time? I think I did do that last time. So let's stay away from Genesis Smith. Dang it. Because I did trade on Stooks and Genesis. But it's a similar thing. Like you just find the player that you think makes the most sense for this team and that plays with the best. I don't think they need running backs. They don't need a center. Denied in a Sutton edge. That's very similar. I'm going to go Jalen Kilgore and give them a nickel. Oh, here we go again. Got to do it again. Man, picking for this team. Need to go wide receiver. Don't love all the positions. So let's go Ted Hurst. Give them an option on the outside. And then Buffalo. Okay, Buffalo went Casey Concepcion. They need defense for sure. So let's see what defense is on the board. Davison Igbinosin, you could add him, and I think he could even start for you. Maybe not this year, but he could be a starter for you in future years. Corleone should not be here. Let's see. Yeah, I think if I'm just looking at this board, Davison Igbinosin makes the most sense to me by far. He's a little bit longer athlete. I think he's a little grabby, but, hopefully he fixes that. He's about as bad as Terrion Arnold, but Terrion Arnold went in the first round, so you're getting him in the third. All right, again, we have another Miami pick. We have gone wide receiver, safety, corner, edge, linebacker, and interior offensive line. This is where I go tight end normally for them. I just think it makes too much sense to go with tight end. I think you could go Michael Trigg, but Mike McDaniel's not there anymore, or Mike McCarthy's not there anymore. So they might not do that because it wouldn't be his type of offense. So maybe we go Justin Jolie, one of the guys I like a lot, and we go there. And then the last pick, I believe, of the draft, end of the day, is going to be, so they've gone CJ Allen and Joshua Josephs to the New England Patriots. So we've got 2 defensive players. Wide receiver was the pick I was looking at. Deion Burks, like I said, is the guy that's next on my board. Cyrus Allen being that far is crazy to me. But yeah, so let's go with Deion Burks and give them a little bit of juice. I think Deion Burks is so good. He actually ran a 4.3 flat 40, just a speedster with a 42.5-inch vert. Like, it's going to push him up boards. I do not think he's going 107. So he's going to go 95 in this. All right, so the Buffalo Bills, Casey Concepcion and Davison Igbinosun, adding to their skill player groups. And then we're going to go down to Miami. Miami gets a bunch of players again. Vega Ione, Zion Young, Colton Hood, Josiah Trotter, Jalen Kilgore, Ted Hurst, and Justin Jolie. I have a lot of these guys higher than consensus, so really like that. I'm actually lower on Vega overall, but they have to get an interior offensive lineman at some point, so get the best one. Why not? Next up, New England, CJ Allen and Joshua Josephs on defense, and then Deion Burks on offense, just giving them some depth, especially at receiver, and then also, giving them a headhunter. I guess he's a good run defender. He's smart, good run defender. I don't love him, but yeah, diagnoses the run well. Not even a question. Tackling monster. Yeah, he does all those things right. He just doesn't have the athleticism that I love, especially in the first round. And then Joshua Joseph's a upside edge that could end up being one of the best pass rushers in the class. And then you have the New York Jets with Ruben Bain instead of the other 2 edges, which Arizona took Arvo Reese, and then David Bailey fell to 8th in New Orleans. So it throws off the whole draft when you go Ruben Bain at 2, apparently. Dylan Thieneman, who I said we had to get at least once on this team because they have some room for him back there in the back end. Caleb Banks and Chris Bell. Caleb Banks falling to 33, just kind of felt right. So that was good. And then they needed to add a receiver. Chris Bell has some of the highest upside. So it's a lot of high upside plays between Caleb Banks and Chris Bell, and then some, I think, floor plays between Ruben Bain and Dylan Thieneman. Both those guys are floors to me. So I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me. That was the NFC East. That is going to be probably the longest video we have because of the amount of picks they have. Tell me what y'all like. Tell me what y'all thought I did wrong. If y'all haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the video. We ran through another one. We've got 6 more to go before the draft. And of course, we're going to have other videos coming out. So this is going to be a daily thing almost. And I'm really excited to do it. I think it's going to be great to have all of these mock drafts up. And then we're going to have our actual mock draft coming up too. So I appreciate you hanging out with me, and I'll see y'all on the next one.